researcher in the field of the occult, religious philosophy. I mean, this guy is a legend when it comes to this type of information, and we're honored to have him on the show today. Jordan Maxwell, welcome to the Intel Hub.
Well, thank you for having me here. The introduction is very nice, but it's hard to live up to.
Absolutely. What have you been up to lately, Jordan? What's new in the world of Jordan Maxwell?
Probably no good. I'm very interested in, as you have said, I've always been very interested in all the things that people don't even know exist.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know why or how it happens, but stuff just comes to me. People send me information I've never heard of before. Even growing up, I was always meeting people who knew things that were extraordinary. And so I've said this before, and I'll say it again. There's nothing important about me. I'm just an ordinary man. But the only thing I bring to the table, if anything of any value, is the people I have met. I have met extraordinary people in my life. For some reason, I've just been able to run into and by chance happen to meet incredible people that have downloaded information to me. For some reason, I've been blessed to be able to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And all I've done is just try and tell people, tell others about what I've learned. I mean, I'm not the bottom line on anything. I'm not the world's foremost researcher or writer on anything. I've just been in the company of extraordinary people telling me extraordinary things. And over the many, many years, I've been doing it for 50 years. And I'm just amazed at how much is really out there that most people will never know even exists.
Yeah.
And I find it's very difficult now, especially in the country with which we're living, times in which we're living. It's very difficult for me to talk about all the things that I'm fascinated by, because so much of what I talk about has nothing to do with football. It's nothing to do with basketball or sports. And it has altogether to do with your very life and your country and where this earth is going and where the world of mankind is heading. And unfortunately, that's not really important anymore. It's the basketball score and the Dodgers are playing. That's the only thing that's important to Americans. That's why you don't have a country anymore. You don't have anymore. You don't have your land of the free and home of the brave. That's all gone.
How did we get to that point, Jordan? I mean, how did Americans in general, just everyone, how did we become this, lazy, couch potato type society?
Well, after the war in 1945, America was on top of the world. She was a victor, and all of a sudden, because I lived through that time, I was born in 1940, so I was like 5 years old, but I remember that after that time, life was incredibly good in America. There was all kinds of work and fascinating things to do, and people were free to do whatever they wanted to do. Nobody even thought about government in America. Nobody thought about government. Nobody thought about world conflict anymore. It's over. Move on. Let's live. Go on with your life. And so we began working hard, and that's when so many things were being done. We were inventing, new cars and airplanes, and we were just a very upscale, top-of-the-line kind of people who were highly educated, and we were the victors, and everything was great. And there was so much freedom in the country. You could go anywhere, say anything you want. Nobody cared what you thought. And there was freedom, and you had liberty and justice, and it was a wonderful time to be alive for Americans. And therefore, Americans got used to the good life. They got used to it, never realizing nothing in the world is forever. Nothing. and things change. The world changes, and so Americans were so used to the good life and never worrying about anything and never concerned about government and overthrow of our government and all that kind of thing. Therefore, we don't think about it. Why bother? I mean, we've got important things to do. We're going to the moon. We're working, and we are, inventing lasers and all the new technology, and things are just great.
Mm-hmm.
And so we forgot a very simple thing, that your freedom is not free.
Right.
And, you always have enemies. Well, Americans have never really understood government. Even from the beginning, Americans never understood government. Only the founding fathers and the people higher up in government.
Mm-hmm.
But the general public has never understood government, and finance, commerce, banking, how the world works, and that's how the enemies of America have destroyed her.
Yeah.
They realize the American people don't think very far on important matters. Mm-hmm. They are very mundane. They're very quick to get all involved with Paris Hilton and television and football and basketball and golf, tennis, and all the other silly ball games they give us to play. And so one day you wake up and you discover you've lost your country, you've lost everything, because your enemies, while you were out playing basketball, they were planning your overthrow. They were planning your demise. Mm-hmm. And so now we wake up and find out that the world that we knew is gone. It's over. And your enemies all these years have been watching you, enjoying life and watching you with your freedom, and planning on the day that they're going to destroy your country and destroy you and put you into chains.
Yeah.
And now it's happened.
Yeah, it's people's attention spans, I've noticed just in my lifetime. I'm only 33 now, Jordan, but attention spans have got down to almost nothing. People seem like they can't stay focused on anything. And like you said, they're not planning ahead on important issues. And a lot of times, these oligarchs, these puppet masters behind the curtains, they're planning for, 20, 50, hundreds of years, maybe even 1,000 years in advance. So, I mean,
anybody with any brains at all knows that, as an example, the guys at the very, very top of Ford Motor Company or General Motors or Union Carbide or any of the major corporations of the world, those guys who run those corporations, they don't get up in the morning and plan what they're going to do.
Mm-hmm. Good point, Jordan. We got a break. We're here with Jordan Maxwell. We'll be back on the other side. You're listening to the Intel Hub radio show. Our websites are theintelhub.com. Jordan's website is jordanmaxwell.com. We'll be back. We're back with our special guest, Jordan Maxwell. His website is jordanmaxwell.com. Before the break, we were talking a little bit about, I guess you would say, legacies. Some of these, globalists, elitists, just businessmen in general, people that are well prepared, they almost, prepare so far ahead. They've almost got these legacies that continue for years and years, Jordan.
Yeah, well, that's what I was saying. The guys who run the big corporations, they don't get up in the morning and go to work and then sit around the table and discuss what we're going to do this week. You can't afford to do that. If you've got a corporation big as Ford Motor Company, you better figure out what you're going to do 20 years from today. Mm-hmm. Because you've got a lot of people, hundreds of thousands of people on the payroll. And those people are used to eating and wanting their children and wanting their cars and their homes and wanting to live good. So you better figure out how you're going to take care of these people, because they've got a lot of people and they can sue you, they can cause trouble. And so you've got a big responsibility to make sure these people are eating next year, and there'll be money in the corporation for expansion next year and 5 years from now, and where you're going to get the glass from, and the nickel and the chrome, and where are you going to get these raw materials from 10 years from today? Well, you better start thinking about it, and you better look at the countries that have those raw materials, and you better start figuring out if those countries are going to go communist or Nazi, or where they're going to go politically, and how much problem are you going to have with filling your orders. So all of this has to be thought out 25, 30, 40 years, and the real smart guys are figuring out 100 years from today where they're going to be setting up, how they're going to distribute. It's called commerce. It's called business. And if you've got a big business, you better start thinking big. And so the people who are thinking in terms of owning and controlling all natural resources, all commerce, all business, obviously, guys at the top are always thinking about going higher at the top. Until one day we finally reach a point, as we have today, where now the whole entire earth is a business.
Yeah.
It's a corporation. The whole earth is a business. I mean, that's what in the movie Network, if you'll remember, Ned Beatty, the head of the network, was talking to the old man who was the network newsman, and he said just that in the movie Network. He said the whole world is a business.
Yeah, it really is.
And that's exactly what where we are now. But once you understand that, you still have not got it. You still don't know how deep this hole really goes.
Wow.
Until you begin to realize that your very physical body, you yourself and your physical body, are a corporation. You are considered under international commercial concepts. You are a commercial vehicle. You are what is referred to by lawyers as movable property.
Now let's talk about that a little bit, Jordan. Are you referring to, for instance, like, everyone's issued a social security number. Is that number seen as some kind of monetary value?
Absolutely. And as a matter of fact, that's exactly what it is. And the way the commerce works, I'm not inferring by what I'm talking about. I'm not saying it's evil or bad. But what I am saying is that if you're going to be a good citizen, if you're going to be a part of the society you live in, then at least you might want to make yourself aware of how the world around you works.
Yeah.
And most people have no concept, have no idea in the world the way government works.
Right.
And as crazy as it all sounds to the normal guy on the street, it's not crazy at all.
Well, and a lot of, Jordan, sorry to interrupt you, but a lot of that, doesn't that kind of stem from our education systems, which are theoretically controlled by the men behind the curtain?
Well, of course. But I mean, I was a member of that same generation. I went to the same schools. I was born in the same country, but I never bought into it.
Exactly.
I always reserved for myself. I learned how to smile, go along to get a work permit, and pat you on the head and tell you you're a good boy and you got good grades. I never got good grades at all. I was always a very bad student.
I was like that myself, kind of defiant.
He just told me that my report card looked like a Christmas tree with all the red F's and green D's and all. And I did terrible in school. And the reason why is because I was always thinking, questioning everything.
Yeah.
And it's incredible that I even got an education at all, because I was never listening to the teachers. I was always questioning. After school, I would go directly to the library and sit and read all day long and all evening, questioning how things work, why they work the way they do. And my questions, even at 7 and 8 and 9 years old, adults, just passed over. They didn't know what I was talking about. They didn't understand the question, and they for damn sure didn't have any answers.
Yeah.
And so I was a product of the same school, but I always reserved for myself the right to think and question for myself.
What do you think causes that, Jordan? I mean, that sounds real similar to, my life in school and how I was. But I mean, what do you think causes that? Do you think some people just get, too much of a dose of fluoride in their tap water, or what do you think triggers that in some people that they kind of want to know more?
That is a phenomena that has existed as long as mankind has existed. And I don't have an answer for that. What makes a Nikola Tesla? What makes a Royal Rice? What makes Albert Einstein?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's strange, but some people come into the world with a mandate to do something for the human race, to think deeply, to inquire deeply, to study, and to have some kind of a, for lack of a better term, a mission in this world to accomplish something.
Yeah.
The overwhelming majority come in, and they are here because they happen by chance to be here. They don't know where they came from. They don't know what they're doing here and couldn't care less. And so too many people come in and are here today because they just happen to have been born. They don't know why they're here. They haven't got the faintest idea what they're doing and couldn't care less about how the world works. All they're looking for is entertainment.
Yeah. Well, go ahead.
I'm not criticizing or putting anybody down. I'm just saying there is, in fact, in your face, the fact that there are certain people who come into the world who are intellectually or spiritual giants who do things that changes the world course of mankind, and the great thinkers, the great philosophers, and great teachers. And unfortunately, those people usually, during the Middle Ages, I mean, for the past 2,000 years, they would end up in dungeons or in prisons, tortured. They would be sidelined, ridiculed, made fun of, laughed at. People with, the movie, the motion picture with what was it called, The Beautiful Mind, where one man somehow or another had an incredible genius for seeing codes, etc.
Oh yeah, right.
And all through school and through life, people mocked him, laughed at him. He was a dimwit because he didn't fit in. Well, that's the way it's always been.
Stay there, Jordan. Stay there. We got a break. We'll be back with Jordan Maxwell. His website is jordanmaxwell.com. We'll be back. We're back with Jordan Maxwell, jordanmaxwell.com. Jordan, before the break, you were talking about a film titled A Beautiful Mind. Continue.
Well, I mean, the idea being that there are people, whether we like to admit it or not, there are people who come into this world, we might say blessed, for lack of a better term, with a particular talent.
Yeah.
And we say in the Western world it's a God-given talent. And there's an old saying that talent does what it can, but genius does what it must. And so there are certain people that come into the world that have a stroke of genius, that they can do things, that they understand things that their normal people don't get. And so they write books and become teachers and become great thinkers, and that's how the human race progresses. And so I've always believed that we did not evolve from monkeys. We're evolving into monkeys. Because we're not reading anything anymore. We don't have any respect for people who have great minds and have important things to impart to their fellow human beings. That's not important anymore. What's important is that the Lakers are playing tonight and that the Dodgers are playing, and you got a traffic ticket you got to pay. And so it's a very mundane society that we have been whittled down to.
Yeah.
We're not thinkers. Americans are not great thinkers anymore. We're not great innovators and intellectually innovating people. Some of us are, but very few. And the few who are usually have to go to another country to do something with their great minds, because in America there's no percentage in it.
Absolutely.
People, and the reason why is that people will always support what they want. They will not support what they don't want.
Yeah.
The people who like country music are not going to support rock and roll. If you like opera, you're not going to pay money to support a rap concert. So people will pay money to support what they want to hear, or what they want to eat, or what they want to see, not what they don't want.
Yeah.
And the one thing that Americans don't want, and it has always been true of the whole human race, all of the ancient cultures of the world and their holy writings, all of them have basically said the one thing that human creatures on the earth almost always do not want, and that is the truth.
Yeah.
People will not pay money to hear the real truth.
It's so
Matter
strange.
of fact, you get hurt telling people the real truth. You don't want to do that. And so the question has always been, in my mind, how important is it to tell your neighbors the real truth? Really, how important is it? Because, first of all, you're going to make an enemy. You keep telling people the truth, and before you know it, you're going to be the only one on the planet talking to you, because nobody's going to talk to you.
Very, very well said, Jordan. I mean, I know exactly. I mean, that makes perfect sense. And you know, I've ran into this type of personality where, you know, you try and tell something, a current event that's going on, and they just don't want to hear it. I don't know if they're scared. They're subconsciously, they know that's what's going on. They just don't want to hear it. They want to continue to live in the matrix, you know, in some sort of world that you know was kind of engineered for them.
Well, look at when I was young. When I first came to California 50 years ago, I was 19 years old. I joined a group called the German American Friendship Club. And I used to go once a month to all their festivities, and it was fun. I would love going to the German Hofbrau restaurant, and they were playing German music, and the beer was great, and the people were fun to be with. And I loved the German people. I loved the European people. I loved the whole ambience of the thing. And so I realized, though, at 19 years old, I had the sense enough to know that I could get away with things that older people couldn't. So I played dumb as a teenager, and I would ask certain questions of the older German couples there, and I would ask them about Hitler and about the Nazi times in Germany, and how is it, and one of my questions was, how is it that the German people did not realize and did not know what Hitler was all about? And they would always tell me, we didn't know. He represented our government. And after all, he was our government, and we have to abide by our government and go by what our government tells us.
Yeah.
Because after all, he is the government, and we didn't know. We weren't aware of anything. And so at 19, I thought, well, that's probably true. But now, some 50 years later, I now know what the story is. I know why the German people did not know about what Hitler was doing. The simple fact is, they didn't want to know.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Now that you explain it like that. Jordan.
Well, let me tell you what happened to me. I was about a year or so ago. I was at a Passover dinner, and after dinner, we're sitting around the room, lots of people there at the Passover dinner, and we're sitting and talking. And the guy next to me was a L.A. Los Angeles Times newspaper reporter, writer, and very well known. He'd been with the L.A. Times for many years. And the conversation I brought up about the 9/11 and what was going on with the country, and he said to me in front of everyone, he said, "Jordan, I don't want to hear this. Yeah. I don't choose to hear this." Yeah. And I said, "Well, you are a journalist for the L.A. Times, yes?" And I said, "Well, this has to do with the journalism. It has to do with with the things that are happening in America." And he said, "I don't wish to hear anything. I don't want to hear it."
Wow.
So whatever it is you have to say, I don't want to hear it, period.
Yeah, Jordan, I've had that same experience with, journalists, corporate journalists. I know, our producers had that experience. I'm not going to name any names or anything, but exactly. And they just come across, they just don't want to hear it. And they're
Well,
just
that's
not
all
going to
right.
report on it.
No, but the point is that it's okay, because eventually, whatever it is that you don't want to hear, when someone tried to help you and warn you, I don't care if people don't want to hear what I'm talking about. I don't care. It's nothing to me.
Yeah.
Because one day you're going to wake up and find out for yourself when it's way too late. You should have listened a long time ago. Yeah. And how many times have we heard that general idea in that story of people who didn't listen?
Yeah.
Well, I understand. People are people, and they don't want to hear unkind things. They don't want to hear difficult things to deal with. They don't want it. They would much rather talk about the ball game or something infantile that our infants and children talk about, rather than talking about something that's very, very dark and very important, and it's going to be visited on your children and your grandchildren because you were too ignorant, stupid, ill-informed, and ill-informed to do anything about this evil that was about, and so therefore you're leaving it now to your children and their children to deal with, because you weren't man enough to stand up. Like the movie says, what was it that Tom Cruise asked Nicholson? He said, Nicholson said, "What do you want from me?" Tom Cruise said, "I want the truth." And he said, "You can't handle the truth."
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, that's the case. Americans, for the most part, cannot handle truth. They wish to run away into a never-ending pursuit of entertainment, Hollywood, sex, drugs, rock and roll, music. I mean, the Medellin cartels and all these drug gangs and drug gangs all over the Western Hemisphere that are selling drugs and murdering people in Mexico, they wouldn't have a dime to do anything if Americans weren't buying the stuff.
Yeah.
So, nobody talks about that.
Yeah.
You can't stand the gangs and the drive-by killings and shootings and the drug trafficking. Well, who is the trafficking going to?
Mm-hmm.
It's going to Americans who are sucking it up. They love the drugs. Why? It's because the whole culture in America and the Western world cannot deal with the truth. The truth is we've been had. We're ignorant, ill-informed, unread, and dippy, and we're not reading, we're not studying, we don't care, and therefore your enemies who are evil all the way through, they are planning your demise.
Absolutely, absolutely. Very well said, Jordan. We're going to have to go to another break here. When we come back, we'll have about 10 minutes left in the show. And Jordan, I might have to rapid fire you some questions to cover some of this stuff. But we appreciate you for coming on the Intel Hub. And everyone stay tuned. More from Jordan Maxwell on the other side. His website is jordanmaxwell.com. Check it out. Well, we're here with the legendary Jordan Maxwell, jordanmaxwell.com. Jordan, we got about 10 minutes left in the broadcast, so I'm gonna hit you with a couple things here. Maybe we can try to run.
Well, before we do that, I want to just make a couple of quick points.
Sure.
Give you an example of the kind of thing I'm talking about. How things are right in front of you and never saw it.
Mm-hmm.
That's the best place to hide anything is right in front of people, so they're looking for it and it's sitting right there.
Yeah, a lot of times it's just right there. It's like with these, the aerosol spraying, the weather modification, chemtrails. People.
It's sitting right there, but
and they don't believe it. It's right. It's just right in front of them. You can go look at it.
And especially when you got two planes. I had many times where there were two planes, a regular plane and a chemtrail, and they see the one is dissipating immediately, and the other is stays there forever. And they're so stupid. Yeah. Americans have become so stupid, they don't even see a difference between the two planes because they're brains have been fried.
I had a day, Jordan. I was driving to work in Phoenix, and I was engulfed in what looked like a mushroom cloud of chemtrail. And I'm just sitting there looking around, crisscross patterns, like big time, I mean, they were really going at it that day. And, people are just driving down the freeway, not even looking in the sky. And it's just this gaseous mushroom cloud.
Well, that's because people are totally sound asleep. They have no idea in the world what's going on. Let me get back to the example I was going to give before we went on break.
Mm-hmm.
A classic example is that how commerce works. You cannot, in America, in this country, you cannot, in fact, pay a bill. So when we hear people say they have this bill they have to pay, in fact, you cannot pay a bill. Anyone in commerce will explain it to you. You can, in America, discharge a debt, but you cannot pay a bill. And the reason why is because, let me give you an example. Suppose you are a painting contractor, and I want my office painted. So I call you, you come and give me an estimate of $100, and I give you the job. After you're through with the job, painting my office as a contractor, you give me a bill. Mm-hmm. That's the way it's done. You give me the bill so I can see what it was you did, how much it cost you, and therefore I now am holding a bill from you for $100. I turn around and pull out of my wallet a $100 bill, and I give it to you.
Yeah.
Now you got paid. No, you didn't get paid. I gave you a $100 bill. It's a bill for $100. That's why it's called a $100 bill. Right. Now, had you given me a bill for $20, I give you a $20 bill. Mm-hmm. And so, therefore, I did not pay you. I discharged the debt.
Yes.
Like walking across a carpet, building up electricity, and touching a piece of metal, you'll get shocked. That's why you have sticker shock.
Oh, but they like to have that payment tag on it so they can really tax that.
Well, the point is that you're not paying a bill. You're discharging a debt. You give me a bill, I'll give you a bill.
Yeah.
You understand?
Yeah.
Now, once you understand how commerce works, it works on it's a very deep subject, and most people have never heard anything about it, and it doesn't really ring in people's ears as important.
Right.
But I'm telling you, it's getting more and more important by the day when you see what's happening with the banks. People today in America do not realize banks are owned by insurance companies.
Yeah.
Insurance companies are the real culprits in this thing going on. But it has to do with the 14th Amendment in 1868 to 1871. What happened in America? What happened in commerce after the Civil War? The 14th Amendment and insurance companies. Now you begin to open up your mind for the first time and see how this world really works. And the banks are nothing more than a front for the insurance corporations. And the insurance corporations are corporations under maritime admiralty law, which is using your body as a security. It's a very big story, and most Americans are not into it.
Wow.
But once you begin to understand what the 14th Amendment was all about, in fact, and how this stuff really works, not how you thought it worked, then you will find out why it is you're broke and your country is broke and people are losing their homes. It's an extraordinary story that most people do not have the mind for. They're not able to comprehend how big this thing really is.
Well, see, now you had to do that to me at the end of the show, because now I want to get you back on the show so you can talk about that specifically, Jordan. But I know what you're getting at here, and this is of extremely important subject, and it goes back quite a ways, doesn't it, Jordan?
Well, of course it does. It goes back thousands of years, but. You know, and this is not something I'm interested in. It's only something that I know that is impacting my country.
Yeah, yeah.
And so, and I know the subject. I'm not the world's foremost authority on the subject at all.
No.
But I know the people who are the authorities. I know the people who are the geniuses in this realm of how the world really works. I have personal friends that will blow your mind if you sat and listened to the things I've heard from them, how banks work, what an insurance company is, how it works with the 14th Amendment after 1871, how this country has been owned, and how you are personal property of a corporation. Once you understand how this stuff really works, for the first time in your life, it will shock you.
Wow.
You will be absolutely amazed and shocked on how the world really works. And I'm not saying, again, I'm not saying it's evil or bad. I'm just saying this is the way your world works.
Right.
And for the first time in your life, you need to understand how the whole thing actually is put together. And Americans have no idea in the world how any of this stuff works.
Well, you laid a lot of this out, so people might be able to grasp little bits and pieces of this, and maybe they'll run with it and do some research.
It's on my website. Go on my website go to links.
JordanMaxwell.com.
All the time. Yeah, people write me all the time asking me questions about things which are already on my website. Been there for years, 16 years. I've had a website sitting right there, and on my links, go to links on my website and scroll down till you see commerce and law on my website links. And there's 4 or 5 different links to websites. I don't own them, but they are profoundly important, explaining all of this stuff that I'm talking about. It's all right there for 16 years, but nobody goes to my links to scroll down to see what's on there. So you need to do some homework and go on my website and go to the research button at the top, which will take you to all kinds of research on stuff you've never heard of before. You can go to audio, video, and I got different bits and pieces of important audio, video stuff I felt was important enough to put on my website. Go to my links, go to research, go to, there's all kinds of stuff there. But most people will email me, ask me questions, and have never been on my website, or they go to my website and they see the home page, and that was it.
Well, now that you've got me going again on this commerce and law thing, I'm going to go to your website and see what you got there, because, I was getting into that before, Jordan, and did some fairly detailed research on it, nothing, real extensive, but yeah, I mean, it's so fascinating how, they look at us like, like.
Well, I have a friend right now in California that is able to give to the United States federal government billions and billions and billions of dollars. I've seen all the paperwork. This guy is an incredible genius that understands. He's got the Congress writing